Heading into Christmas last year, the governor of Pennsylvania decided that because of the pandemic, all restaurants were to close for most of December. I don't know about you, but that directive seemed so random. Couldn't eat at a restaurant, but I could still shop at a very large grocery store. Well, anyway, my wife and I kind of felt bad for the cooks and the servers. At some of our favorite restaurants, we started to strike up a conversation with these people, and it's like, what are you guys going to do? I mean, how are you going to make ends meet? They were a little concerned. The ones that we talked to, they were concerned about how they were going to make it through Christmas season without any source of income. So we talked about it a little bit, and in the weeks leading up to that closure, we decided that we were going to either double or triple the amount of our usual tip. Granted, it wasn't a whole lot of money, but we just thought that we should be doing something. You probably have done the same thing. You give to a need out of your abundance. You do that. And that's what biblical generosity will do. Biblical generosity will do that. From the world's perspective, generosity is readiness or liberality in giving, a freedom of meanness, smallness of mind, or smallness of character. Generosity is also related to size, that's the way I like it. That's a generous portion of scrambled eggs, that's what I like to say. But from a biblical perspective, generosity is the quality of being kind and unselfish, especially as it pertains to sharing money and other valuables with other people. This concept of generosity, considering the needs of others, dates almost all the way back to the beginning. If you recall in Genesis, God asks Cain about his brother. He says, what's become of Abel? What do you know about Abel? God's asking this of Cain. And he asked this as if Cain should be thoughtful and considerate of Abel. And yet, of course, in Cain's response, he says, am I my brother's keeper? We see selfishness and indifference. Even before the law was given, even before God handed down that law to Moses in 1446 BC, those who worshiped the Lord were generous. In the life of Abraham, sometime around 2000 BC, Abraham demonstrated generosity to his nephew Lot, Genesis 12:5. Abraham took Lot into his home and raised him as his own son. He also gave Lot the better portion of land. He said, Lot, you pick where you want to live first. That's Genesis 13:5 through 11. And of course, Lot took the better land, and Abraham took lesser for himself. That's generosity. When Abraham rescued Lot, he ends up giving 1/10 of his spoils of war to the priest at Salem, whose name happened to be Melchizedek. So Abraham acted generously, even though there was no law instructing him to do it. It seems to have been part of his nature and perhaps part of his specific culture as well. Abraham was a guy who demonstrated great faith in God. From the Bible, it seems pretty clear that the root of generosity, which is love and concern for others, was evident in some of the godly people that you meet as you're reading the Old Testament, reading the scriptures. What about the rest of the world? Would you say that the rest of the world was generous, or was generosity something that was limited to those who walk closely with God? Interestingly enough, in the same time period that Abraham lived, there were some Babylonian writings that mentioned a list of punishments for those who abuse the weak. You see this in the writings of a guy called Gilgamesh. Even during Israel's slavery in Egypt, some of the Egyptian writings claim that in order to pass into the afterlife, one of the requirements was to be generous. So, although the law of Moses was given at a later point in time, it seems that a few individuals, at least, and perhaps a few cultures, understood that it was wrong to turn a blind eye towards somebody in need. You're reading that, and it almost seems as if it's part of our nature, if you will. Even before the law was given, it seems to be part of our nature, where people were acting, at least a few people in a few cultures were acting with generosity. So tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to examine some of these Old Testament passages. We're going to take a look at the Old Testament law and see how these laws and these instructions apply to us today. You've been watching Transforming the World, my friend, and my name is Pastor Greg.